In high school, the boy sitting behind me had a crush on me. He put glue in my hair, punctured my bicycle tires, and threw away my homework. He would even snap my bra strap while I was focused in class. The snap echoed loudly in the classroom. I turned around in embarrassment and anger, and he grinned, saying, "You're wearing a new style today." His brother seized the opportunity to stir things up. Xia xin, he likes you, anyway. You're going to get married in the future. So it's fine if your husband touches you. Watching Zhou Qi's ears turn bright red, I just felt disgusted. Later, in the cafeteria, I dumped my food tray over his head and cheerfully confessed to his furious face, "I like you." His brother jumped up to back him up. "What kind of liking is it when you dump a food tray on his head?" See, so they knew it all along. I directly pulled down his pants and confessed expressionlessly, "Now I like you." 1. A 10-minute break between classes. I stood in the stairwell to catch the breeze, and whenever a teacher passed by, I would pick up a book and pretend to be studying. I lingered until the class bell was about to ring. Only then did I muster the courage to enter the classroom. As soon as I showed my face, the people around my seat instantly fell silent, exchanging knowing glances and snickering quietly among themselves. There was a nauseating sense of unspoken understanding. Something must have happened. My heart sank, and I quickly walked toward my seat. Zhou Qi's desk mate excitedly nudged him with an elbow. "Your wife is back." The term "your wife" made Zhou Qi's ears turn red, but it made me sick to my stomach. It was because I hated them. That's why I would hide away as soon as class was over. Zhou, my desk mate, glanced at me and said, "Finally back. Class is about to start." I ignored her and carefully checked my seat. There were no suspicious stains on the chair, no unknown dirt in my water bottle, no bugs in my pencil case, and all the pen refills were still there. Zhou Qi and the others just watched me nervously inspecting everything with a smirk. I counted my homework and realized the test paper that was tucked inside my Chinese textbook was missing, and the next class is Chinese. The people around me acted as if I had finally found an Easter egg. Watching with smirks, I immediately confronted the culprit. "Zhou Qi, where's my test paper?" Zhou Qi just laughed. As if I were flirting with him, Qinshuo leaned in and said, "Why don't you go with Zhou Qi to search the grove later? Maybe it's there." He teased in a strange tone, "That place is deserted, even the teachers don't go there. You could do whatever you want, and no one would know." His gaze was suggestive and lewd, and I understood instantly. How disgusting. I wish I could slap him right in the face. The whole room burst into laughter. Everyone's face was lit up with eager amusement. I was absolutely furious. Tears welled up in my eyes. I hated their mocking smiles, their teasing eyes, and even more, the indifference of the other girls, led by Zhou. The girls were all too eager to pair Zhou Qi, who was poor in academics, unattractive, and had a bad character, with me. Even if I said it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I don't like Zhou Qi. I have no relationship with him. I have a mouth, but none of them have ears. They stubbornly believe that Zhou Qi and I are a couple. Look at me. I'm so angry I'm crying. They laughed even harder. The class bell rang. The Chinese language teacher walked in with a stack of test papers under his arm, glanced at my red eyes, and then ignored me as he placed the papers on the lectern. "Take out your test papers. We're going over the test papers today." Her gaze lowered, landing on my empty desk, and she furrowed her brows. "Xia xin, where is your test paper?" I stood up helplessly and replied with grievance, "Teacher, I did write it." Zhou Qi threw my test paper away. Zhou Qi shouted loudly behind me, "I did not." The Chinese teacher fixed a sharp gaze on me and said, "You claim Zhou Qi threw your test paper away. Do you have any evidence?" Just as my eyes turned toward Zhou, she immediately said, "I didn't see anything." The Chinese teacher lost patience and scolded me sharply, "Xia xin, if you didn't do your test paper yourself, don't blame others. How dare you cry? Sit down. I clearly wasn't at fault." Yet I became the one who was being unreasonable. A raging fury surged in my chest, burning so intensely that my temples throbbed. I don't even know how I got through this class. The bell rang for the end of class. I asked Zhou, "Did you really not see it?" Zhou Ying's expression changed slightly. "I'm not your pet dog. Why should I show you my homework as soon as class ends?" Qinshuo came over to stir up trouble again. "Why don't you go to the grove with your husband and let him help you look for it?" Ha ha. I sprang to my feet. The chair screeched loudly. Qinshuo's smug grin instantly vanished. I grabbed their pencil cases and hurled them fiercely into the trash can at the back of the classroom. "Keep messing with me, and I'll tell the homeroom teacher. If the Chinese teacher doesn't back me up, I'll go to the homeroom teacher. If the homeroom teacher doesn't help, I'll complain to the grade-level director." Qinshuo snapped, "Are you insane? Why are you throwing my things?" I kicked his desk over and shouted, "You're the ones who are insane." Qinshuo was stopped by a few boys. I turned and left the classroom, walking to the stairwell to get some air. I've had enough of this environment. I really want to go back to my old school to study. I want to call my mom, but then I remember her face, glowing with maternal love as she held my newborn brother. My eager heart suddenly turns cold, too. I transferred back to my hometown during the first semester of my senior year of high school. Even after being back for half a year, I still can't get used to it here. The old streets, the shabby shops, the backward schools, most of the people walking on the streets are elderly in their twilight years. The entire small city seems drained of vitality, lifeless and dull. My heart feels like a drifting waterweed with no place to settle here, wanting to float to bustling waters, yet powerless to do so. Walking down the street, I could hear the sound of mahjong tiles clattering from the far end of the road. Pushing the door open, a mix of laughter, arguments in various dialects, and the choking smell of smoke rushed toward me. In the corner, an old woman with a cigarette dangling from her mouth was slamming the mahjong tiles loudly. She glanced sideways at me and shouted, "Go cook, so many people are waiting on you with empty stomachs." I pursed my lips, put down my backpack, and ducked into the small, smoke-filled, rudimentary kitchen. There's an aunt outside who said, "Your granddaughter is in her final year of high school, right? You should let her focus on her studies." Grandma, playing mahjong, snapped back loudly. "If she doesn't do it, what are you going to do?" The aunt who spoke immediately fell silent. Grandma was like a boiling kettle, her voice sharp and explosive. As a stream of complaints burst out, "All you know how to do is spout pretty words. It's so damn annoying. Am I supposed to be indebted to the Xia family? That bastard's own family is gone, and he left this burden with me. If it weren't for her mother who at least remembers to throw some money over every month, I would have kicked her out long ago." She yelled loudly toward the kitchen. "You in the kitchen, hear me, your mother still hasn't given this month's living expenses. Tell her to transfer the money quickly." Hiding in the kitchen, I responded gloomily, "Got it. Other high school seniors only need to eat and study hard when they return home, yet here I am clumsily chopping vegetables and lighting the stove, cooking up a large pot of noodles." The dinner wasn't great, but luckily the neighbors were all busy playing mahjong and just wanted to fill their stomachs, so they weren't too picky. After finishing a bowl of noodles, the neighbors once again enthusiastically resumed their mahjong game. I moved between the seats, collected all the bowls and chopsticks, clumsily washed them clean, while listening to Grandma scold me with disdain. Day after day, "You have no awareness, doing these things so sluggishly." I silently endured her criticism, and after washing the dishes, I boiled water to make more tea. It was almost 10 o'clock by the time I finished. I quickly set up a small table in the corner to do my homework. When I looked up after finishing, the hour hand of the old clock was already pointing at 1. The small mahjong parlor was still bustling with noise and excitement. I curled up on the simple single bed, unable to fall asleep with the sound of mahjong. I quietly comforted myself in my heart, just endure a little longer. Once I get into university, I'll be free. The early morning at the mahjong parlor is the quietest. I quietly took a 10 yuan bill from the small drawer and went to eat a bowl of hot dry noodles. I rode my bicycle toward the morning light on my way to school. As the school gate drew closer, my mood grew heavier. Zhou, Qinshua, and that bunch were sure to act like jerks. Teasing me was their only source of fun during school. Sure enough, after morning reading class, as soon as I lowered my head to take a sip of water, Qinshua, who sat behind me, couldn't hold back his mischievous grin. My heart sank, and I immediately checked my water bottle. The liquid was clear, and there was no mysterious note stuck to my back. Qinshua patted me with ill intentions, grinning mischievously. "You two lovebirds are so affectionate, indirectly kissing every day, huh?" His words sparked a burst of laughter from the whole class. I snapped back furiously. "What nonsense are you talking?" Qinshua winked at Zhou. Zhou flushed red and lowered his head without saying a word. I felt disgusted seeing Zhou acting as if we had something going on. Zhou directly revealed the answer. "Zhou just drank from your water cup. How is that not an indirect kiss?" Qinshua chimed in. "You don't need to be indirect. You can just kiss directly, huh?" I was instantly disgusted to the extreme. I threw the water cup into the trash can and yelled at Zhou, "Is your family so poor that you can't even afford a bottle of water? How low do you have to be to steal someone else's water?" Zhou's face instantly darkened, and anger rose in his eyes. "I know his family is poor, and I did it on purpose." Soon, voices defending Zhou erupted from the crowd. Zhou Ying's voice was the loudest. "Xia Xian, do you really have to hurt someone like this? Is your family so wealthy?" I stared coldly into her eyes. "Then give him your water to drink. Maybe when he's thirsty, you can just kiss him to quench his thirst." Zhou Ying's eyes instantly reddened, her face full of humiliation. "Stop being disgusting. You're the one kissing Zhou. Ha, she doesn't even like Zhou herself, yet she keeps pushing him onto me." Zhou also sensed the disdain in Zhou Ying's words. He stood up and kicked the desk hard. The desk hit Zhou Ying's back. and she gasped in pain but said nothing. Watching Zhou Qi walk out of the classroom, Qinzhu's face darkened. He pointed at me from a distance and followed to comfort his good friend, for Zhou Qi's confidence was shaken, and he stayed quiet for several days without causing trouble. I finally managed to study peacefully for a few days, really hoping he would stay quiet all along. Unfortunately, Tian Li's recovery ability is astonishing. By Friday, Zhou Qi was acting up again. The physics teacher was still going over the test papers at the podium. The old man over 50 squinted his eyes and quickly went through the key points as if it were just a formality, not caring whether we were listening or not. I was listening attentively when suddenly my bra strap was pulled up. A sharp snap echoed clearly in the classroom. The stinging pain from the bra strap snapping back broke my concentration. I froze for a moment. And only when I heard Zhou Qi and Qinzhu snickering did I realize what had happened. My face instantly burned with heat, shame, and humiliation washed over me in waves, nearly suffocating me. Furious and embarrassed, I turned around. Zhou Qi grinned and said, "Changed to a new style today, ha." Qinzhu also winked and joined in the teasing. "Xia Xian, he likes you. Anyway, you two are going to get married in the future. So it's fine if your husband touches you, haha." When Zhou Qi heard his words, the tips of his ears turned bright red, but in my eyes, it only seemed especially disgusting. How shameless is that? How shameless can you be? Just as my sanity was about to snap, the physics teacher on the podium suddenly glanced over, glaring at me with displeasure. "What are you two causing a scene about?" I opened my mouth. An inexplicable sense of shame gripped my throat tightly, leaving me unable to utter a single word. What can I say to a male teacher? In front of everyone, say that Zhou Qi snapped my bra strap. Low, muffled laughter erupted around them, with people winking and exchanging glances. That kind of unspoken, suggestive look was disgusting. The physics teacher impatiently tapped the desk with a rolled-up test paper. "Quiet, all of you, Xia Xian. If you keep causing trouble, you'll all be standing outside." I heard the physics teacher call my name and opened my eyes wide in disbelief. It was clearly Zhou Qi who was being a jerk. So why blame me? I can't stand this lousy school for even one more day. 5. Skipping class for the first time in my life was a secret, something that went unnoticed. I didn't even carry my backpack, quietly hiding at the corner of the school hallway. For the past 17 years, I've been the well-behaved girl in the teacher's eyes. Their words were like imperial decrees, and the school rules were like divine laws. Just skipping one class felt like the most rebellious act in my eyes. Seizing the moment to climb the school wall, my heart pounded like a drum, my palms sweating with nervousness. When I saw the ground far below me, what came to mind was the image of the protagonist in the Shawshank Redemption, spreading his arms in the heavy rain, embracing freedom and redemption. If I don't escape, there will be no peace. I took a leap of faith and jumped down. Bang! I landed on the ground, and my feet hurt. But not as much as I had imagined. I started running, leaving the school behind me, getting farther and farther away. I ran all the way back to the mahjong parlor, panting heavily, ignoring the surprised looks from the neighbors, and went straight into my small bedroom. I reached under the pillow on the single bed, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number with trembling fingers. The phone rang more than 10 times before it was finally answered. A familiar, suppressed angry hello came from the other end. My throat tightened with emotion, and before I could even utter the word "Mom," her sharp, impatient voice cut through. "Why are you calling for no reason? You woke your brother up again, and now I have to soothe him back to sleep." I felt as if my throat were being squeezed, my heart so full of grievances that I could hardly breathe. "Mom, you haven't even listened to me. How do you know I'm fine?" Mom didn't realize I was calling her during class time. She said disdainfully, "Here for living expenses again. Can't you wait a few days without being so anxious?" I have a feeling that even if I told Mom about what's happening at school, she wouldn't want to listen. I listened almost numbly to her venting, her dissatisfaction with Grandma, with me, with my stepfather, with her in-laws. Everyone in the world has let her down, and she neither has the ability nor the desire to help me. After the call ended, 200 yuan was transferred into my account. Mom told me to spend it first and ask her for more when it runs out, but I know she doesn't want me to ask her again, because she kept hinting at how much money her younger brother needed and how difficult it was for her to constantly ask for financial help, how tight money was. A sensible child shouldn't make things hard for the adults. I curled up in the small single bed, burying myself under the covers, wishing I had never been born into this world. The bedroom doorknob turned a few times, and Grandma chatted with a neighbor from the mahjong parlor. "Ha, that silly girl is back. It's not even time for school to be out. Why is she home already? Damn it, why did you bolt the door so tightly?" The sound of keys clinking came from the doorway. After a while, a rough hand reached under the blanket and felt my forehead. Grandma patted me twice through the blanket and said, "You're not even sick." So why did you come back? I tightly closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep, but the damp tears at the corners of my eyes betrayed me. Grandma's dissatisfied grumbling abruptly stopped. A gaze stared at me for a long time. In the end, Grandma said nothing, closed the door, and went out. 6. The income from the mahjong parlor is unstable. Aside from the low tea seating fee, we only charge 10 yuan per person for meals. Even with such small fees, some people still try to avoid paying. I dozed off and was awakened by noise from outside. A man was shouting angrily, "We've been neighbors for so many years, and you're chasing me down for just a few bucks. Damn it, I'm not coming back." The voice sounded familiar. It's that person who always causes trouble at the mahjong parlor. I tiptoed out of bed and peeked through the crack in the door. Grandma's eyebrows were furrowed, and the corners of her eyes were etched with deep wrinkles, each one making her look fierce and menacing. With a cigarette dangling from her lips, she sneered sarcastically, "How ridiculous. How dare you call 2 months' worth of food expenses just a few bucks? If it's just a few bucks, then pay up. Don't make people chase after you for it, you damn bastard, coming here every day with that shameless face to mooch off meals, as if my house is short of your slop. Get lost." The man was scolded to the point of losing face. "I think you've been a widow for so long you've gone crazy wanting a man." Following me around all day long, he lewdly and contemptuously slapped his crotch. "I've sewn my wallet in my pants. If you've got the guts, reach in and grab it." In him, I seemed to see Zhou Qi's shadow. These despicable and shameless men, once they're at a disadvantage, always resort to vulgar topics to cause trouble, and these vulgar topics are naturally off limits for women, yet they proudly wave their shit-stirring sticks. I probably won't be able to collect Grandma's meal expenses for these past 2 months, so I'm quietly preparing to close the door. Out of the corner of my eye, something boldly charged forward. Before anyone could react, Grandma yanked down the middle-aged man's pants. At the critical moment, the middle-aged man barely managed to grab his waistband, awkwardly exposing half of his buttocks. The aunties playing mahjong around him watched with cheerful smiles, their eyes unflinching and unashamed. Grandma spat out her cigarette but with a pft, exuding an air of streetwise toughness. "How much money do you even have for me to take? You think your measly savings can pay off my debt? I could pick up a rotten radish off the street, and it'd be better than your little birdie." Inside the door, I stared wide-eyed in shock, unable to believe what I was hearing from Grandma. It can be like this. Grandma's slaps rained down on the middle-aged man's head and face. "I'll teach you to be a jerk, believe it or not. I'll pull your pants down to your heels right now, yank that little thing off, and hang it on the door." The middle-aged man was so embarrassed that his face turned bright red, like a boiled crayfish, bending over and desperately clutching his waistband. Don't pull," while hitting him. Grandma cursed, "See if I dare or not, you son of a bitch." The onlookers around were laughing, though some had disapproval in their eyes. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Grandma was crude, savage, and undignified, but in my eyes, her figure seemed to be glowing. Nothing can stump her reputation, others' opinions. She doesn't care about any of these things. The middle-aged man couldn't hold out any longer and shouted, "Let go. I'll transfer the money to you." As he conceded defeat, the onlookers burst into laughter, and Grandma finally received 2 months' worth of meal expenses. I watched the middle-aged man flee in panic. And it felt like I had an epiphany. Why should girls have to be proper, quiet, and concerned about face? I'm going to stir up a storm instead. 7. The next day, as soon as I reached the classroom door, the noisy classroom suddenly fell silent, faces turned toward me, an invisible pressure closing in. I paused for a moment, then stepped into the classroom. Zhou Ying's voice was always the first to ring out, her face full of teasing. "Finally here, you weren't around yesterday, and someone was worried sick." It was clear who that someone referred to. Zhou Qi's gaze occasionally drifted towards me, while Qinshu tilted his head, twirling a pen, and looked at me with a mischievous grin. I let out a scoff and stared at her. "Oh, so you're jealous, aren't you?" Zhou Ying's expression changed instantly. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I raised my voice, loud and clear. "Isn't it true? If you weren't staring at him, how would you know he was anxious? I know you like him, so I've been jealous all along. Don't worry, I'm not interested in him. I'll stay far away from him." Zhou Ying's face was full of humiliation, and she was so disgusted that she broke down. "Don't talk nonsense." Zhou Qi seemed to take it to heart, and his gaze began to drift toward her intentionally or unintentionally. Zhou Ying was so angry that she burst into tears directly. How ridiculous. I treated her the way she treated me, and she couldn't stand it. Watching Zhou Ying run out, I felt particularly satisfied. It should have been like this long ago. What is there to explain? I should have pinned the blame on her long ago. Let her also experience the taste of being constantly subjected to disgusting jokes. I placed the brand new insulated cup on the table, and Qinshu immediately nudged Zhou Qi. "Your wife wants to kiss you indirectly again." I heard it but didn't say anything, thinking to myself, "Hurry up and drink it. it's prepared just for you. 8. Probably because I smashed the water cup last time and called Zhou poor to his face. On the first day, Zhou didn't come to bother me. On the second day, he still didn't bother me. I placed the water cup on the table as usual and slipped out after class. Until the third day, the Chinese language teacher was standing on the podium explaining the test papers, fully immersed in her lecture, when suddenly 2 loud farts exploded in the classroom. The farts were loud and crisp, accompanied by an indescribable stench. The whole class covered their noses and looked in the direction of me and Zhou. Even the Chinese teacher frowned and glanced over. Zhou also pretended to look around, his gaze fixed behind me, but everyone still looked at Zhou, only he was struggling to hold back his discomfort, clutching his stomach. If it wasn't him, who else could it be? Zhou froze in embarrassment, his stomach churning violently as he desperately clenched his buttocks. Beside him, Qinzhua slapped him on the back and laughed. "And you're the one looking at others," Zhou exploded, suddenly standing up and yelling, "Are you out of your mind?" As he stood up, he stepped on the hem of his pants, pulling them halfway down. Qinzhua, who naturally loved to mess around, slapped him on the butt again. Zhou's expression changed. Everyone heard a loud bang. Thin, yellowish, liquid feces exploded out. Qinzhua was directly sprayed in the face. Zhou's asshole was like a floodgate opening, spraying incessantly with a series of poof 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 sounds. Everyone within his radius suffered the consequences. Qinzhua yelled and jumped away. The classroom erupted into chaos, with students scattering in all directions, and even the Chinese teacher was left dumbfounded. This scene is absolutely hilarious. Stand in the corner, watching Zhou frantically pulling up his pants while covering his butt to avoid shitting himself. I couldn't help but burst into hearty laughter. Serves him right. Ha, so satisfying. Zhou was so embarrassed he wished the ground would swallow him up. When he looked up and saw my smiling face, he suddenly understood and pointed at me, shouting to the teacher, "Teacher, she's the one who put laxatives in my drink." The Chinese language teacher immediately turned to me, her eyes filled with anger. "Xia Xian, did you put medicine in your classmate's water?" I met her gaze directly and retorted, "Teacher, what evidence do you have?" 9. The Chinese teacher's expression changed. Remembering how she had questioned me in the same way back then, I then turned to Zhou and demanded, "How did I put laxatives in your drink?" Zhou immediately began to stammer. After all, secretly drinking from my water bottle wasn't exactly an honorable act, and it wasn't something he could easily explain to the teacher. The Chinese teacher also noticed and shouted in disgust, "Hurry up and get out, you've made the whole classroom dirty." Zhou, flushed with embarrassment, ran away in a fluster. Qinzhua, covered in feces, ran even faster than him. The classroom was about to become unbearably smelly, so everyone rushed outside to escape. The Chinese teacher gave me a gloomy stare. "Xia Xian, you clean it up," I replied directly. "I won't." The Chinese teacher didn't expect me to defy her and flew into a rage. "How dare you disobey your teacher?" My heart trembled for a moment, but I quickly steadied myself. Grandma made me realize one thing. As long as I don't care about the rules, her authority is a paper tiger. I directly questioned, "Why should I clean the mess Zhou made? And it's not my turn to be on duty today." The Chinese teacher was left speechless by my retort, glared at me fiercely, and called the student on duty today to clean up the mess. She stood on the podium, continuously scolding me for disrespecting teachers, lacking love for classmates, and being selfish. I let those words go in one ear and out the other. Compared to wiping shit, I'd rather be selfish. 10. Zhou hasn't come to class for 3 days. Qinzhua hasn't come either. He got sprayed in the face with feces and will probably be disgusted for the rest of his life. With both of them absent, the air in the classroom suddenly feels fresher. I'm enjoying this rare moment, fully aware that when they return, they will definitely seek revenge on me, but I am not unprepared. Hidden in the backpack is a top-secret weapon, just waiting for Zhou to return. 11. It's hard to imagine Zhou and Qinzhua, those two scoundrels, actually haven't fallen out. When I saw the two of them walking into the classroom with their arms around each other's shoulders, our eyes met in the air, silently entangled in a mutual struggle. Zhou had a dark expression, while Qinzhua gave me the middle finger, his lips moving silently. "Fuck your mother." The two of them sat down behind me, and I immediately felt a prickling sensation on my back. The physics teacher was still going over the test papers on the podium. Qinzhua cursed in a voice that was neither too loud nor too soft. "Bitch, I've never seen someone as cheap as you. You don't know how to appreciate a favor." Zhou stretched out his leg and kicked my stool hard from under the desk. My attention kept getting interrupted, my right hand reaching into my backpack, tightly gripping the top-secret weapon, waiting for the perfect moment. Seeing that I wasn't reacting, the two of them became even more aggressive. Zhou grabbed the strap of my underwear and pulled it back like a slingshot, stretching it far. How shameless, how shameless. Since he's being shameless again, I have to fulfill his wish. I suddenly stood up, pulled out the neighbor auntie's purple-red bra from my backpack, and slapped Zhou across the face with it. I raised my voice to ensure every corner of the classroom could hear it clearly. Aren't you just shameless? Shameless, always pulling my bra strap. Are you jealous because you don't have one to wear? I'll give you one for free. Zhou face turned a mix of green and red. The purple-red bra didn't hurt when it slapped his face, but the humiliation was extreme. The boys in the class were so shocked they started screaming excitedly. Zhou was stunned by my slap, and I pressed my advantage, shouting, I'll teach you to be shameless. Look at how fat you are. And your chest is so big. Come on. Don't just envy, I'll let you wear it right now. I pointedly stared at Zhou chest. He was chubby, and the protrusions on his chest were quite noticeable. All the surrounding gazes were fixed on Zhou chest, with Chinchu's lip being the most meaningful. For the first time in his life, Zhou felt the gaze of the male gaze. As a boy, his eyes actually showed a sense of shame. The laughter from the classmates around him made him snap, and he grabbed a stool and threw it at me. I dodged to the side. The physics teacher on the podium shouted, Stop, 12. Zhou and I were called to the teacher's office. The physics teacher, seeing the Chinese teacher was also there, handed the matter over to her. After briefly understanding what had happened, the Chinese teacher turned her criticism toward me. As a girl, have you no shame? How could you use your bra to slap a boy in the face? I looked at her coldly and said, if he hadn't been acting shamelessly in class and grabbing my bra strap, would I have slapped him? I glanced at Zhou, who was standing beside the Chinese teacher, a faint look of smugness in his eyes. I'm telling you straight, isn't it lingerie you like? I'll just give it to you. Zhou's expression changed, and the Chinese teacher slammed the table as she stood up. The teacher is pointing out your mistake. How dare you talk back, huh? Why can't I talk back, as a teacher? She can't even say something fair, and she won't allow the victim to defend themselves either. I looked at her coldly and evenly. When a young girl has no shame and no fear of authority, in a way, she is invincible. The Chinese teacher was so angry with me that she had no choice but to ignore me and not let me leave, punishing me by making me stand in the hallway. I heard her inside the room patiently advising Zhou, the college entrance exam is coming up soon. You need to focus on your studies right now and not be led astray by shameless girls. Your life and future prospects are more important. I really want to go in and slap her across the face, but that wouldn't be satisfying enough and would also get me in trouble. Zhou requested to change seats. He wanted to get away from me and didn't want to sit behind me anymore. The Chinese language teacher agreed immediately. I listened and sneered inwardly. Back when I was being bullied by Zhou and had no way out, I went to her to ask for a seat change. What did she say then? I still remember her expression, her eyebrows slightly raised, her eyes filled with impatience. Why is it that others don't have as many issues as you? If you study hard, would he bother you? I clenched my fists, turned around, and walked to the principal's office, knocking on the door. After entering the room, I burst into tears, feeling wronged. Teacher. The boy behind me grabbed my bra strap during class, and the Chinese teacher punished me by not allowing me to attend class. The head of the academic affairs office, 13, the head of the academic affairs office told me to go back to the classroom for class. I secretly stood at the corner and saw him walk into the Chinese teacher's office with a tense face. Not long after, I could hear his rather stern reprimanding voice from inside. This voice is more beautiful than celestial music. I walked back to class with light steps. Zhou was quite surprised to see me back. Halfway through the class, Zhou was called up by the frowning dean of the academic affairs office. They are right in the hallway. The head of the academic affairs office yelled loudly, "Don't you have any women in your family? Don't you have a mother? How dare you be so shameless as to pull a female classmate's bra strap? Do you even have any shame? If you're so curious, go home and touch your own mother." The entire class heard the head of the academic affairs office's scolding, and faint, almost imperceptible glances fell on me. Zhou came back with his head drooping, and the Chinese language teacher behind the dean of academic affairs shot me a venomous glance. I gently lifted my chin, feeling nothing but exhilaration. 14. High school seniors who commute from home are not required to attend evening self-study sessions. By the time I finished my cleaning duties after school, it was already past 6 o'clock. I was in a hurry to get back to the mahjong parlor to cook. As soon as I reached the bicycle shed, I immediately sensed something was wrong. I crouched down for a closer look. The bicycle's tires had been punctured and were completely flat. It must have been Zhou and Qinshu who did it. The thought had just crossed my mind when two dark shadows enveloped me. I stood up in a panic, and with a swift motion, my skirt unexpectedly fell to the ground. Chinchua stepped triumphantly on the hem of my skirt, while he and Zhou fixed their gazes on my lower body. Their eyes gradually darkened, and their nostrils flared with excitement. I quickly pulled up my skirt, my anger boiling over, and was just about to lash out. Chinchua and Zhou exchanged a glance and moved toward me in unison. I sensed an unprecedented danger, shoved my bicycle at them, and immediately turned to run in the opposite direction. Chinchua and Zhou scrambled to push the bicycle off themselves, cursing furiously. I had never run so fast in my life. Chinchua and Zhou wanted to catch up, but they could no longer see my figure. The mahjong parlor and the school were two completely separate worlds. The school appeared calm and peaceful on the surface, yet it kept me constantly on edge. In the mahjong parlor, amidst the laughter, banter, and occasional outbursts, the most genuine desire to win and lose filled the air. The moment I stepped inside, my shoulders relaxed. I cooked as usual and cleaned up the dishes. Lying in bed at night, the humiliation inside me burned like a raging fire, keeping me awake. The image of Chinchua stepping on my dress appeared in my mind, and I held a knife, stabbing him again and again. It was only later that I understood. Those moments of humiliation, when I did not fight back, will follow me for the rest of my life. Occasionally looking back on them later, it feels as disgusting as swallowing a fly. I suddenly opened my eyes in bed. I can't go on like this anymore. 15. I approached a few girls in the class and quickly gained their friendship, going everywhere with them. Chinchua and Zhou had been following me for 2 days, but when they saw I wasn't alone, they gave up. That day, I went to the cafeteria with a female classmate. As soon as we entered, I saw Chinchua and Zhou sitting among a group of boys. Chinchua patted Zhou shoulder and said, "Let me tell you, Xia Xian is just a slut." Before, Zhou was too shy to confess to her and kept teasing her, but she acted all high and mighty every day, refusing to accept his kindness. Hearing this, my anger surged. Liking someone is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Moreover, Zhou doesn't even like me. He's just using the name of liking to vent his malice on me, because truly liking someone means respecting and caring for them, making them happy and content, not teasing, belittling, or framing them, and then smugly watching them suffer. Chinchua comforted Zhou. Even the Chinese teacher said she's cheap, deliberately seducing you. You shouldn't like her anymore. The female classmate next to me looked at me with concern and whispered to comfort me, "Don't be angry. Guys are just awful, they belittle what they can't have." I grabbed my lunch tray and slammed it right onto Zhou head. Zhou screamed and jumped up in shock. Meeting his furious eyes, I said with a grin, "I like you, don't be ungrateful when I'm being nice to you." Chinchua jumped up to defend him. "What kind of liking is it when you dump a food tray on his head? See, they actually knew it all along." I directly yanked down his pants and declared expressionlessly, "Now I like you. As long as I like you, everything I do to you is justified." Chinchua's legs were bare, and he was wearing a pair of Ultraman patterned underwear. I looked at him without flinching, just like my grandmother would, and even let out a flirtatious whistle. "Your little bird is too small." Chinchua's face turned bright red. He frantically tried to pull up his pants. "Fuck your mother." I stepped on his pants and pushed him down with both hands, looking down at him sarcastically. "I do like you. Why are you so ungrateful? What the hell?" Chinchua was furious. He struggled to get up, but I pounced on him, pinned him down, and grabbed 3 or 4 meal trays, smashing them hard on his head. Chinchua was stunned by my blows. Zhou quickly came up to help him, and I don't know where I got such brute strength, but with one pull, I dragged him down too. A thick glob of spit landed right on his face. 2 scumbags. The 3 of us rolled together, and I used every means possible to attack them, throwing punches, kicking groins, slapping faces, even biting them. I viciously bit Chinchua's ear and gave Zhou a hard kick in the crotch. The surrounding boys rushed to help them, and I was quickly overwhelmed. The girls weren't having it and stepped in to stop them while shouting for the teacher. "Teacher, the boys are hitting a girl." After this fight, I became famous at school, and everyone called me the toughest that girl in class 7. 15. Things have gotten serious. I bit off Chinchua's earlobe. All of us had our parents called in, because my grandmother's phone was unreachable. The principal sent me home. The principal said with a dark expression, "If you can't get your parents to come today, don't even think about coming back for the college entrance exam." I walked back to the small mahjong parlor with heavy steps. I pushed the door open and entered. Grandma was sitting in the corner playing mahjong. She lifted her eyelids and glanced at me. "Huh, it's not even time for school to be out yet. How come you're back so early?" I stood beside her, hesitating for a long time before asking, "Grandma, can you come to school with me?" Grandma stopped shuffling the cards, turned slightly to look at me, took a deep drag from the cigarette held between her 2 fingers, and said, "Huh, what trouble have you gotten into out there?" I mustered up my courage and explained everything that had happened at school clearly and in detail. Before I knew it, the entire mahjong parlor had fallen silent. All the uncles, aunts, and other relatives were listening to me speak. I thought they would lecture me a bit, since I really wasn't acting like a good girl. Unexpectedly, Grandma's tense face softened slightly, revealing a faint, almost reluctant smile. Girls from Hubei are no weaklings. I can't describe how I felt in that moment. Unconsciously, I straightened my back, like a soldier who had just received praise from a general, so incredibly proud. An aunt slapped her thigh and laughed. "You took on two by yourself, smart move. Next time, remember to bring a handy tool," another uncle taught me. "With that kind of scoundrel, what's the point of talking about martial ethics? Next time you run into him, just give him a solid kick right in the crotch. I guarantee he won't come to his senses for a good few minutes." I laughed and promised, "I'll remember, I'll do it again next time." Everyone was chatting and laughing. Grandma stubbed out her cigarette and asked me seriously, "I can go to school and back you up, no problem, but think carefully. If the teacher later picks on you, can you handle it?" I thought about it for a moment. Anyway, the Chinese teacher already disliked me, so it wouldn't matter if she disliked me a little more. Nodding firmly. 16, Grandma was fighting fiercely in the principal's office. Unexpectedly, Zhou Qi's mother turned out to be a reasonable person. After hearing the whole story, without a word, she raised her hand and slapped Zhou Qi hard across the face. A sharp slap rang out, very heavy. Zhou Qi lowered his head, his face completely numb. His mother didn't stop, slapping him more than a dozen times in quick succession. Zhou Qi's face immediately became swollen and bruised. Even Grandma was rendered speechless by this scene. Mother Zhou stared at Zhou Qi with deep disappointment. "I told you to behave yourself. I worked so hard to earn money to send you to school. Is it just so you can harass young girls?" Mother Zhou pushed Zhou Qi in front of me and my grandmother, then bowed deeply. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble. I apologize to you. Please, can you forgive my son?" Grandma didn't look at Zhou Qi. Her gaze was fixed intently on Mother Zhou's face, and a flicker of pity flashed in her eyes. Yet she said, "How can you guarantee your son won't harass my granddaughter again?" Mother Zhou apologized repeatedly and made promises before Grandma slightly relented. However, Qinshuo's father was not as easy to deal with. The moment he entered, his face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and he charged straight toward me, only to be stopped by the principal and teachers. He jumped up and down, cursing, "Why are you stopping me? Fuck your mother, get lost, this bitch." Grandma stepped in front of me in a flash, her voice booming like thunder. "Who are you cursing at? Have your eyes grown in your ass? First, take a look at the mess your own brat has caused, and you still dare curse my granddaughter." Chen's father, his face full of arrogance, held up Qinshuo's bloody earlobe flesh. "Damn it, she bit off my son's earlobe. This troublemaker must be expelled from school. Pay up. If you're even a cent short, I'll call the police right now and have her arrested." The school leaders grew a bit nervous when they heard he was threatening to call the police. Grandma suddenly calmed down. "You're the kid from the Qin family on Sanming Street, right? Go home and ask your mother who it was that gave her $1,000 to save your life when you were 14 and came down with that serious illness 30 years ago. $1,000, you think it's just toilet paper? Even if we don't mention this money, your mom went to the hospital to take care of you, and your sister ate for free at my mahjong parlor for 3 years. Did I ever ask your family for a single cent?" Grandma sneered. "Neighbors helping each other out. Who would have thought it would end up creating an enemy who harms my granddaughter?" Chen's father was stunned. He was too ashamed to say anything and immediately grabbed Qinshuo's arm, pulling him out of the principal's office. Grandma won the first battle and lit a cigarette with satisfaction. Just then, a faint voice rang out. The Chinese teacher glared at me with resentment. "Even if the two students' parents don't press charges, Xia Xian was still wrong for starting the fight in the cafeteria." The principal and the dean of academics exchanged subtle glances but remained silent for the moment. Grandma's enthusiasm was interrupted, holding her cigarette without moving, her aged eyes fixed on the language teacher. "Oh, if it weren't for those two troublemakers pulling my granddaughter's skirt in the bike shed, would my girl have had any reason to take action?" The language teacher then defended Qinshuo and Zhou Qi. Both boys said it was an accident, and it was just pulled down a little, no harm done. "It's really not a big deal." Grandma's expression changed, and she handed the cigarette to me. I respectfully held it, and when I looked up again, I saw something darting out. Grandma brazenly pulled down the Chinese teacher's skirt. Also in the office were the principal, the head of the academic affairs office, and several male teachers from other subjects. The Chinese teacher, naked from the waist down, screamed hysterically in. Grandma looked at her coldly, screaming, "Scream your mother's soul. Didn't you say yourself, pulling a skirt is no big deal? Turns out the knife hasn't stabbed you, so you don't know the pain, huh?" The Chinese teacher, blushing, put on the skirt and fled without looking back. The principal was about to speak. "How could you?" Grandma glanced over, and his words took a turn. "This is utterly disgraceful." 17. I was allowed to take the college entrance exam, but I still received a disciplinary record. My grandmother went straight to the principal's house and camped out for a week, making a scene, throwing tantrums, and even giving gifts. The principal was so annoyed he didn't even dare go home, and had no choice but to let me off the hook. After this battle, the fiery temper I inherited from my grandmother became famous throughout the school. Zhou Qi never dared to mess with me again. Qinshui didn't even dare to look me in the eye. That day, he was dragged by his grandmother and to my family's small mahjong parlor, where he knelt down and apologized. At the same time, no classmates in the class made disgusting jokes about me anymore. Jokes like how I was touched by Zhou Qi or how I indirectly kissed him disappeared from my ears. I had violently wiped my world clean and could finally focus wholeheartedly on preparing for the college entrance exam. Grandma didn't make me go back to cook, saving me some time. 18. After the college entrance exam, I felt I had done quite well. I had a wild time in the small town during summer vacation and didn't want to go back to my mom at all. Now I have an indescribable fondness for this shabby little town. The elderly woman selling vegetables on the street is Grandma's childhood friend, the aunt selling beef noodles at the stall is Grandma's gossip partner, and even the doctor at the small street clinic is Grandma's distant nephew. Everyone I pass by here is, to some extent, connected to Grandma. This gives me a great sense of security. Mom somehow heard about those things and specifically called to question me. Her voice was surprisingly angry. "How have you become like this now? Fighting with boys at school and pulling down their pants? Have you no shame? How disgraceful." Deep inside, I felt a sharp sting. Studying my breath, I retorted, "Where were you when I was the target of disgusting jokes? Where were you when someone snapped my bra strap in class? Where were you when I was having my skirt pulled off in the bike shed?" I couldn't help but say sarcastically, "Oh. You were busy breastfeeding your little brother, putting him to sleep, busy pleasing your new husband and your new in-laws," I said coldly. "Since you didn't protect me when I was being hurt, what right do you have to blame me for protecting myself?" Mom flew into a rage. "How dare you talk to me like that? You think you're all grown up, don't you? You're just like your grandmother now." I can't stand her speaking ill of Grandma. Grandma may be feisty, but she's 100 times better than you. At the very least, Grandma can survive without relying on a man. She raised Dad without ever having to beg for help. I slowly retorted, "And what about you?" Even though there was silence on the other end of the line, I could still feel the lingering shock from her side. I deleted and blocked my mom's phone number, then turned and walked into a small mahjong parlor, boldly shouting to my grandma at the table, "Grandma, I'm starting college next week. Give me my living expenses now." Someone next to Grandma yelled, "I win." Grandma's face fell, and she stormed over furiously, "You silly girl, you just had to bring bad luck right when I was about to win, didn't you? If I lose money, it's all on you." I giggled and hopped away. "You're always at the mahjong table, so it's the same no matter when I say it, just give it to me first. Once I graduate from university and find a job in Wuhan, I'll take you with me to live there, and you'll get to enjoy delicious food and drinks every day." Grandma couldn't hold back her angry expression and laughed. "I'll believe you when pigs fly. Even your deadbeat dad can't be relied on, and you expect me to count on you." I hid by the door, peeking in and out. "Just give it to me already." Grandma snorted coldly, returned to the card table, and ignored me. My Alipay, however, chimed with a crisp sound. "Alipay payment received, 2,000 yuan.